Well, we've almost arrived at the end of the first unit. And in this unit, you've learned a lot of things. You've learned personal pronouns. I, you, he, she, we, you, they. You have learned how to make a sentence negative, don't or doesn't. You've learned how to put a subject and a verb together, remembering that he or she adds s or z at the end of the verb. Otherwise, nothing else changes. You have learned how to form a question, do or does. You've also learned how to form a question in a second way, using an end question. Don't you? Don't I? Or do you? And so now at the end of this unit, before participating in the most important activity, and what is that most important activity? It's the ability to converse, to have a conversation with a native speaker of the language you're learning. And that's what we'll work on at the very end of this unit. But before we get to that point, we want to review in this lesson all of the different sentence structures that you have learned thus far. So let's go take a look in section 2 at a series of sentences all based around, in this case, the idea of you do homework. And we're going to manipulate, we're going to change a little bit this sentence every time we move to a new line. So here's an affirmative statement, you do homework. You would not say does, would you? Because we're not saying he or she, we're saying you. So you do homework. Now let's make it negative. A negative sentence. You, what should this be? Is it don't? Is it doesn't? Right, it's don't. Because we're not saying he doesn't, she doesn't, but you don't. So you don't do homework. Let's go on to the next question, or next line, which is a question. This is the first type of question, and you're going to use, what does it say it? Right, do. Does would be for he or she. So this is do. Do you do the homework? So do you do the homework? Next, now it's a negative question. And so not do, but don't. Don't you do the homework? Don't you do the homework? On the next line here. Now we're going to make a statement. We're going to say this statement starting right here, going straight across as though we're just making a statement. You do the homework. And at the end, we're going to add a negative question. You do the homework. What is this? Yeah, don't you? Don't you? Remember, if you start with a positive statement or an affirmative statement, you do the homework. You end with a negative, don't you? If you start with a negative, which is the case here, you'll end with a positive. So let's try this one. Make this statement here, the second type of question. Right, you don't do the homework, do you? You don't do the homework, do you? So if you say do you, you'll end with don't you. If you start with don't you, you'll end with do you. Okay, let's go on to the next section. This section deals with the idea of whether a person likes to listen to classical music. So what is this sentence? Okay, two things to remember here. We're saying he. Remember that with he, we always add s to the end of the verb. And so he likes. He likes. And the second thing, when you have two verbs side by side, like and listen. Like and listen. Two verbs side by side, they'll be separated by the word to. All right, so he likes to listen to classical music. Okay, let's make that a negative statement. Go ahead and you say it. Follow the bouncing hand there. Right. He doesn't like to listen to classical music. He doesn't like to listen to classical music. Try the next one. This is a question now. Is it going to be do? Will it be does? Which will it be? Yeah, does, because we're talking about a person. We're saying he. So does he like, what comes between the two verbs? To listen to classical music. Does he like to listen to classical music? The next one here. We're going to make this negative. So instead of saying simply does, we're going to make it negative. Right. Doesn't he like to listen to classical music? Good. Now make it a statement, and then you'll go back and give the opposite form of the question. We're going to start with an affirmative statement, and we're going to end with a negative question. So, he likes to listen to classical music. Is it does he? Is it doesn't he? Yeah, it's doesn't he. Because we started in a positive way, in an affirmative way, he likes, and so we'll end with doesn't he. Now we're going to start with a negative. He doesn't like to listen to classical music. Now we go back and we're going to put this in the opposite form. We started negative, we're going to end positive. So he doesn't like to listen to classical music. Does he? All right, let's do one more series together, then I'll set you loose to do these exercises without my help. Here's a simple sentence. You live in the city. You live in the city. Make it negative. Right. You, was that don't or doesn't? Don't. He doesn't. I don't. She doesn't. You don't. Right. So you don't live in the city. Make it a question. Is it do or does? Right. Do. It's he does, but you do. So do you listen? Do you live in the city? Next one. Make it a negative question now. It was do you live in the city? Now it's don't. That's right. Don't you live in the city? Don't you live in the city? Now, we're going to start with an affirmative statement, positive. We're going to end with a negative question. So, you live in the city, don't you? Very good. You live in the city, don't you? And now make this a negative statement. We're going to start negative and we'll end positive. So, you don't live in the city, do you? You don't live in the city, do you? Okay. Well, this is a chance to repeat not just these three series right here, but there are several others that follow, and to review all of the different sentence structures that you've learned in Unit 1. And I'll see you soon as we prepare for a conversation, that whole conversation that we should be able to carry out with a person who speaks the language that we're learning. That'll be coming up, I believe, in the next lesson. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.